Most High in Christ. All right, so with everything going on in the media today, you know what I'm saying, we got everybody jumping on the bandwagon right now, you know what I'm saying, trying to take a kneel for the national anthem, which, once again, I mean, a kneel isn't really disrespectful, but the world is taking it as such, so I guess we'll take that for now. But in the meantime, what I want to talk about is how, I mean, first of all, the I.S.U.P.K hasn't stood for the national anthem since 1969. Right. You know what I'm saying? Our children haven't. They've been ostracized in school, so on and so forth. We haven't. You understand? What these men are doing on national TV is our regular life. The entire world is finally catching up to the truth. You get what I'm saying? So now, what I want to get into is a history of the national anthem, as well as American racism and police brutality. So what a lot of people don't know is the history of, like, for example, anybody know for Colin Kaepernick, why did he start sitting, or why was he taking a kneel in the first place?
Initially, it was for the injustices of the killing of unarmed colored men.
Okay, originally, you know, it was for the Mike Browns, the Trayvons, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. But what was he trying to prove by doing that?
He was saying, why should I stand for a flag that will give me justice? This flag is supposed to represent freedom for everybody and justice for all. But at the end of the day, I'm going home and finding out my friends going home.
Oh, okay, that's an explanation. So you basically just expounded on his point. But my question is, why is Colin Kaepernick, or why originally, like, what was he trying to do by kneeling and or originally sitting down for the national anthem?
Were you trying to form some type of unity with other players?
Okay, not so much other players. It's never for other players. Remember, he was doing it for, like, black people as well, but for what?
To bring awareness.
To bring awareness. Okay, but who is he trying to make it aware to?
He's trying to make it aware to white men, to America.
There you go. You understand? The problem is that it's like Black Lives Matters. Who are you saying Black Lives Matters to?
Right.
White people. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Colin Kaepernick is trying to do that. For example, they got a show on Netflix right now, Dear White People.
Right.
How about we just say Dear Black People? To all people, because Dear White People, Black Lives Matters, kneeling for the national anthem, what they're all trying to do is change white people.
Right. Right.
You understand? And you can't change him. The only person who could repent, the only person who could change is the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, woman, and child. Right. You understand? These other nations are stuck in their ways. Their culture ain't our culture. That's what they do. The white man's culture is stealing and murdering, is culture thieving. You get what I'm saying? Is being a vagabond, is being a robber. You get what I'm saying? The Asians have their culture. Every race, every nation has their own culture. We sit there and we try to join on to them. We want their love. We want their respect. Black and Hispanics right now are like, I see this all the time, like, let's say we're in a battered relationship. We keep getting knocked upside the head and we keep trying to change that individual. That's what women say all the time. I'll change him. I could change him. They make excuses. What happened? I fell down the steps. I walked into the door. Right. When really he's whooping your ass. Right. You get what I'm saying? Now, metaphorically speaking, we should leave that relationship.
Right.
Right.
You understand? Now, in real life, marriage is forever. You get what I'm saying? But according to that, you can't be with the person who's harming you. There's got to be a separation. There's got to be a time to heal. That's the problem with it. So what all those brothers should do is they should walk off the field.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, they walk off the field. Watch how fast this empire collapses. Like, what? Like sport. Think about it like this. That is a multi-billion-dollar industry. You understand? Right. Which without it, nobody's gonna want to watch a bunch of white boys playing that game. You know what I'm saying? It's not one white person who's running into the end zone and doing a backflip or a front flip over the defender.
Right, right.
You get what I'm saying? Like they don't do that. And that game, they've been trying to completely extinguish the black man's spirit. You get what I'm saying? They've been trying to make it softer. They tried to put them in pink. They tried to million different things that they do, but one of the main things that they do is showboating. They started fining brothers for showboating.
Right.
You understand? Like, why is it that that brother can't celebrate? It's too black for him.
Right.
It's too Hispanic for him. You get what I'm saying? White folks ain't that flamboyant. That's why you go to the Christian church, go to a black Christian church, it's a goddamn concert.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You go to the white church, it's in the name of the Father.
Right, right.
You get what I'm saying? They don't got the spirit that we got. They don't got the flavor that we got.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So what you're seeing here is that they're turning around and they're trying to change them, but you can't change them. Damn it. Shalom, Sister Rita. Karawakan. Yes, sir. Karawakan. 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 Usharita. Salakia. So now, what we got going on is we're going to get into a history of this Star-Spangled Banner and why none of us should be standing for it. Like, we shouldn't have anything to do with any part of America.
Right.
You understand? We shouldn't have anything to do with the holidays. We shouldn't have anything to do with. If y'all online, let me know if y'all can still hear me. I don't know if y'all want to put a 1 in or what. Good?
So, sir, if I may, so Colin Kaepernick and all the NFL players taking the knee would be similar to them begging.
To what?
To them begging for white man?
Yeah, absolutely. You understand? We're protesting because we want you to acknowledge us. Killing us, you understand? I mean, anybody on their hands and knees, they're begging.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like taking a stand, taking a real stand, you understand, is walking off the field. Taking a real stand is walking out the police station, walking off the force.
Right.
You understand? Honorable discharge and leaving the military, not building or trying to do anything for this nation. I mean, if every single black entertainer and sports player came together to start their own league.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? There's plenty of fields available.
Right.
What do you need? Bleachers? How did it start off originally? Bleachers and a field. You need an entire stadium? But we envy them so much. We want to do what they do. We don't have to do what they do. Because I know, like, I don't know about y'all. I used to go to high school football games. We were geeking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Those were monumental events when we were young. You know what I'm saying? You went, found a couple of women, we went to eat after, you know what I'm saying? Like, we had a good time. You know what I'm saying? But we want their wealth. We want to attach ourselves to everything that they do. We desire to have what they have. So once again, it's a form of begging. We're begging them to stop killing us. Just like Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Right. Just like Black Lives Matters. Just like all these movements when nobody ever got free from begging. Those aren't the type of protests that we have, get?
So you can say that Kaepernick's protest is basically a sin?
I mean, it's a sin to live a beggar's life.
So I was wondering about the aspect when you compare it to Black Lives Matter. Because I know Black Lives Matter is definitely sin.
Okay, but don't. Black Lives Matter is wrong because they hijacked the movement that was supposed to be about black men and turned it into LGBT.
Right.
They turned it into a homosexual movement, and then they're still not doing anything for the people, and it's still begging. You get what I'm saying? Like the focus and the topic right now is that they're begging. When once again, if we really cared about our people, if we really had a mindset and were educated and we weren't destroyed for a lack of knowledge, we would know that the national anthem is wrong. And we should be teaching that to our children. Our children should know that. That should be common knowledge. Like the way it's common knowledge, you understand that George Washington is the first president? Like it should be common knowledge to our children that there is a stanza or another act of that Star-Spangled Banner that is literally pro-slavery and anti-black and literally about the death of our brothers and sisters, of our ancestors. You get what I'm saying? So that's something that we got to pass down to. So the main thing that I want you to know why it's wrong is because they're begging. You understand? That's the whole point. When that's not what we should do. We got to be more independent. You know what I'm saying? Remember, you sent me the stories. The firemen are saying they'd rather save a dog than a million niggas. You get what I'm saying? The midwives are taking the little black babies, dancing them to hip hop, flipping them off and calling them mini Satans when the white man's the devil in the earth. We need our own midwives. We need our own fire department. We need the U.P.K on every corner, police in the ghetto. You get what I'm saying? So in the meantime, I'm going to read a little bit of this article. We're going to get into some history. It says, Americans generally get a failing grade when it comes to knowing our patriotic songs. I know more people who can recite America F Yeah from Team America than America the Beautiful. Yankee Doodle, no one older than a fifth grader in chorus class remembers the full song. God Bless America, more people know the Reverend Jeremiah Wright remix than the actual full lyrics to the song. So he's letting you know that we're ignorant to this. You understand? In America, they keep us dumbed down even to America's history. In our case, the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, perhaps knowing the full lyrics is a good thing. Excuse me, perhaps not knowing the full lyrics is a good thing. It is one of the most racist, pro-slavery, anti-black songs in the American lexicon. And you would be wise to cut it from your 4th of July playlist. Now, this man's not in the truth. So I'm going to be correcting him half the way. It is what you should do. Don't celebrate the 4th of July. Don't celebrate Thanksgiving. You understand? Don't celebrate any of these American holidays. Because the deeper you get, like, for example, Labor Day. A couple of weeks ago on Labor Day, we found out that Labor Day was also about the oppression of black and Hispanics because those labor unions were forced to keep us out. Those labor unions were created in order to create a gang of white people who would be able to get jobs and keep black and Hispanics unemployed. You understand? So now, what we have here is that we have this song. So we're going to go over the song. We're going to break it down. You understand? So now this is the Star-Spangled Banner. As most Americans know it, is only a couple of lines. In fact, if you look up the song on Google, only most famous lyrics pop up on page 1. So on Google, on the regular, they don't even show you the rest of it. You understand? So now, it says, the story, as most of us are told, is that Francis Scott Key was a prisoner on a British slave ship during the War of 1812 and wrote this poem while watching the American troops battle the invading British in Baltimore. That, as in the case with 99% of history is taught in public schools, regurgitated by the mainstream press, is less than half the stories. I don't know how many of y'all went to college. I dropped out of 3. And in each college that I went to, in their curriculum, I had to unlearn what was taught to me in grade school. It shouldn't be no big of a mystery because the same thing happened, in high school rather. Because in high school, you had to unlearn some of the other things. In grade school, they teach you about the Nina Pinta Santa Maria. Columbus discovered America. Brainwash you with that. Then in high school, they tell you, well, he landed in the West Indies. He never even really went to America. You know what I'm saying? Then as time goes on, you start to find out. I mean, he thought it was India. You know what I'm saying? You get deeper into the truth, you find out that he knew where the hell he was going from reading the Bible. You get what I'm saying? So it's like layers of lies that you have to peel back. You understand? When common sense tells you you can't discover something where there was thriving civilizations, trade routes, pyramids. You had civilizations inside of America that was so advanced, they had breath mints and they carried them around almost like in a Mentos package. I'm not saying it was made out of tin, but they had a little package for it, like Tic Tacs. You get what I'm saying? So now what we have going on is that to understand the Star Spangled Banner, you have to understand the author. He was an aristocrat and city prosecutor in Washington, D.C. As he was, like most enlightened men at that time, not against slavery. He just thought that since blacks were mentally inferior, masters should treat them with more Christian kindness. You understand? It's ridiculous. Man. White man is the devil.
Yeah, right.
Remember, remind me every 20 minutes to say that if I have. He supported sending free blacks, not slaves, back to Africa, and with a few exceptions, was about as pro-slavery, anti-black, and anti-abolitionist as you could get at the time. So this is the author of it. Right. You understand? Of particular note, Key's opposition to the idea of the Colonel Marines. The Marines were a battalion of runaway slaves who joined with British Royal Army in exchange for their freedom. You understand? Which, in one breath, I can't really blame them for wanting freedom. They're enslaved in America. They feel as though they can get their freedom, which they wouldn't have. The British would have just enslaved them as well. We have to stop trading one devil for another devil. We did the same thing in the Maccabees. You understand? Judas Maccabee, his father, his brothers, warred against the Greeks and then made a pact with the Romans. What did the Romans do with that covenant?
Used it to flush away the Judea.
Give me something simple.
They were the most such beasts of the field.
What did they do with the covenant?
They didn't honor it.
They broke it. They broke the covenant.
So like I just thought he like basically I thought so like I always thought Esau did what Esau got.
Keep it simple. Just keep it simple. He broke his covenant and then took over Jerusalem. All right? We got to stop doing that and just stick with our people and turn back to the Most High. So now, the Marines were not only a terrifying example of what slaves would do if given a chance, but also a reputation of the white superiority that men like he were so invested in. All of these ideas and concepts came together around August 24th, 1815, at the Battle of Bladensburg, where Key, who was serving as a lieutenant at the time, ran into a battalion of Colonel Marines. His troops were taken to the woodshed by the very black folks he disdained, and he fled back to his home in Georgetown to lick his wounds. The British troops, emboldened by their victory in Bladensburg, then marched into Washington, D.C., burning the Library of Congress, the Capitol building, and the White House. You can imagine that Key was very in his feelings seeing black soldiers trampling on the city he so desperately loved. Now, this is another thing which, in the upcoming weeks, I'm waiting on a couple of books to get here, but I got history showing that most of the colony of Jamestown was actually black men, because they love to say, hold your peace for a minute. They love to say that King James, you understand, started the slave trade or was involved in the slave trade. What they don't tell you is that we had white folks in slavery in America in Jamestown. Yeah. You understand that? Damn right, hold your peace for a minute. So now, not only that, but they don't tell you the wars that we won. Like, for example, this is a battle. How many of us knew that this was a battle that was won? If you think the British, you're thinking white men. You're not thinking black men that are on the British side. Well, that's the same thing at stories like Bunker Hill. That's the same thing at stories like Gettysburg. That's the same thing when it comes down to, I bring this up a couple of times, in World War II, there was a famous general by the name of Patton, General Patton. You understand? They made shows about it and all that. His entire regiment or battalion was filled with black and Hispanics, and they won every major victory in that war. Meaning that they couldn't have a history without us. You understand? And all these glorious things. It's a brother, Paul Revere. He was the one that they said the British was coming. The British was coming. Most people don't know there was 3 other riders out there. 2 of them were slaves. You understand? So these are all in history. You got your hand up.
So if I'm not mistaken, black Indians actually tell you, if I'm not mistaken, Jamestown was the first time any person settled in the United States, and it was us because the Isupk tried to come over here, couldn't survive, we did not have no land from that. And then they basically died off and started to run back to Europe. We fled to the Indians. So very interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's similar to what happened. What ended up happening is they ended up overthrowing us. You know what I'm saying? But for a time, we were ruling over them. They were in slavery. You understand? I got multiple sources to prove that. So now we're gonna continue reading on. So now he's in his feelings right now because he just seen these blacks burn down the White House, burn down Congress, burn down the Capitol building. You understand? A few weeks later, in September of 1815, far from being a captive, Key was on a British boat begging for release of one of his friends, a doctor named William Banks. Key was on the boat waiting to see if the British would release his friend when he observed the bloody battle of Fort McHenry in Baltimore on September 13, 1815. America lost the battle, but managed to inflict heavy casualties on the British in the process. This inspired Key to write the Star-Spangled Banner. Right then and there. But no one remembers that he wrote a full 3rd stanza decrying the former slaves who were now working for the British Army. So now this is the 3rd stanza of, you understand, the Star-Spangled Banner, what they sing for the national anthem. And where is that band who so valiantly swore that the havoc of war and battle's confusion, a home and a country should leave us no more? So talking about that they want to come and take the country away from him. Their blood was washed out. Their blood was washed out. Their foul footsteps pollution. Meaning he's saying all that foulness, all that pollution that they were trying to cause was washed with their blood. You understand? No refuge could save the hireling and the slave. A hireling is almost like a mercenary. You understand? A hireling is somebody who would do a job that nobody else wants to do. You understand? And he was looking at these ex-slaves as hirelings. You understand? Or so far, these slaves who's fighting for the British. So no refuge could save the hireling and the slave from the terror of flight, of the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free, home of the brave. So talking about that blood that he's talking about cleanse the pollution, is talking about black men that died in that battle. You understand?
So what's going on? That last one, order, free, home, and brave. What's going on? They just basically took that last part and just attached it to the second stanza? I
mean, in poems, lines will repeat.
All right.
You understand? Like that's like a song or a poem. So that's how he was ending it. In other words, Key was saying the blood of all the former slaves and hirelings on the battlefield would wash away the pollution of the British invaders. With Key still bitter that some black soldiers got the best of him a few weeks earlier, the Star-Spangled Banner is as much a patriotic song as it is a diss track to black people who had the audacity to fight for their freedom. You understand? But they don't tell us about this because we do not want to put the idea of freedom in a slave's mind. You want to give them hope. You understand? or false hope rather, but you don't want to teach them about freedom. You understand? God damn, man, I watched some corny movie not too long ago, and I promise you, this movie was about niggas, man. It was called Bicentennial Man. I was waiting for a show to come on, and it was just on the TV. You know what I'm saying? I think I was waiting for Game of Thrones to come on a couple of weeks ago. And while I'm watching it, I'm watching Robin Williams is playing this robot. You know what I'm saying? He's like a house Negro.
Right.
White man starts educating. He got educated, and the daughter liked him. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like y'all know life.
Right.
Remember how the daughter liked Can't Get Right? Had a baby bond? The daughter, being nasty as she is, Esau falls in love with the robot. Don't get me started. Long with the story short, he got so educated and overrode his program, right, that he started reading, and he asked the daughter, he says, how could I get my freedom? And she's like, is that what you really want? So he goes in and goes to the father of the household and says, writes a check. He's made them millions upon millions of dollars, this robot. This robot started making clocks and shit. He goes and gives him a check with all his money. And he's like, what's this for? He says, my freedom. You know what this devil did? He ripped up the check, got angry. First, before he even did that, he asked the daughter, did you put him up to this? Thinking he didn't have the mindset to do it on his own. That he didn't want freedom. That's why I said this about black people. Right. You understand? They don't want to put freedom in a servant's mind. That's what the robot was supposed to be, a servant, a slave. He starts talking about freedom. He turns around to him and says, I'll give you your freedom. You keep your money. You're going to need it. Because I'm done with you. This devil didn't talk to him until he was on his deathbed. You understand? Right. Because the white man can't deal with something wanting to be free. Right. You understand? Because it was a robot, he got his freedom. Right. But the point is that Esau held such a grudge because of it. Couldn't believe he didn't want to serve him anymore. It's ridiculous, man. You understand? That's the nature of Esau. And that's why he was so butthurt in his feelings. You understand? Right. Because they are sore losers. You know, listen, what gives me solace is Ecclesiastes 1:4, when it says the earth shall abide forever, because everybody's afraid that the white man's going to destroy the earth. Right. You get what I'm saying? Everybody's afraid because he's such a sore loser that he'll take everyone out before he loses. Right. You understand? But the army of the Lord is going to be so swift, it's going to take him out in an hour. He ain't going to have time to be doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? But that's who he is. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna die too if I have to, but you ain't leaving here either. You ain't getting the better. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll cut his nose to spite his face. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where this came from. You understand? Like, and this is why none of us should stand for that. None of us should pledge allegiance to the flag, because this is the difference between things. Everybody's mad at the Confederate flag, all right? But the American flag is just much as a symbol of our oppression as the Confederate flag. Because the American flag was made at this time. And that boy, what's her name? Betsy, that's something Ross, whatever the hell her name is, that made the American flag. I can't remember what's her name. Betsy Ross. I know it's. I'm in the ballpark. I can't remember all these devils. Betsy Ross didn't even make the flag. A slave girl did. You understand? So the symbol that they're even waving around, the original American flag, wasn't even designed by white people. You understand? You can't have America without us. You can't have anything in this land without us. So now, you come around, you start to find out that, hey, SHALAM. Understand? No, that's sides for women. All right. So now, hold on one second. Grab my drink. So in the midst of all this, you understand, everything inside of America, it either came from us or it's about enslaving us or oppressing us. You understand? What's up? No, the water. Let me know then. So now, a couple other things that I want to go over. So when you take a look at American history, right? So, okay, the American flag. I'm gonna get sidetracked for a minute. The American flag is like covert racism. It's like what everybody was feeling, what every white person was feeling in the Obama administration. They had so much pent up frustration. You understand? But there was such an illusion of this is a liberal world. There was such an illusion of things are changing. There's a dark face in the White House. You understand? The my man right here. I wish I could give you a written commendation for this right here. I'm not even playing. Man, water. In the butter. Yeah, don't bring no teacher an apple over here. I want a Kit Kat them. So, the American flag is like Bob on the job. In his head, it's calling you a nigger. In his head, he said, I can't wait for Trump to build the wall.
Right.
Whereas the Confederate flag is Skeeter, who just wants this nigger.
Right.
You understand? All right, redneck, cracker, Skeeter. You know what I'm saying? I could respect Skeeter more than Bob. Right. Because me and Skeeter know where we stand. You stay over there, I stay over here. All right. I won't cross your line. Right. But Bob is subtle. You understand? Bob is a snake. Get your hand up.
Tom, I would essentially like explain could you explain because the way you were explaining the American flag compared to the Confederate flag, it kind of reminds me of the image and the beast itself, except the way you were explaining the American flag would be more close to the beast.
You ain't got to get that deep. This is more so just like the point that I'm trying to make is that this is literally about all these symbols are about our enslavement, our racist symbols. They don't care about us. We make a big deal about the Confederate flag when we shouldn't have any love for the American flag. America oppressed us. America had us in slavery. You understand? Right. And hold your peace for a minute. And they had no inkling or concept or real thoughts about freeing us. They didn't want to. They fought a war over it. Millions of them died. You understand? Right. You got your hand up?
Tying into this, I was looking for employment, right? Craigslist, I'm they got like fake grassroots program.
You were telling me about this. Oh, they got fake grassroots movement, right? And they're hiring people to protest. Come.
Benefits.
Well, we're gonna stay on topic more so with you understand like as far as the history of American racism. Good.
That's right. The only reason I brought it up is to show like even the progression, fake progression that they're showing, even that is contrived.
I understand what you're saying. Like they're even creating the fake opposition to seem like progress, but it doesn't matter because it's a false. Because everybody in it isn't there for a real movement. They're getting paid for it. It's a job. When I show up, they don't care about it. You know what I'm saying? Most people don't care about their slaveries. They show up because they need to keep the lights on. Right. You understand? Baby needs food. So now, at America's inception, you understand this? This is why. Now, let's bring it all the way back in. So what we were talking about initially was, y'all weren't here, but let me see if y'all know. Why was Kaepernick? What was Kaepernick trying to prove, or what was his motivation for sitting down in the first place? Because this is going to tie into my whole point.
Well, he sat out the put a spotlight, using status as a spotlight of police brutality, the larger picture, the way they reacted to him, they showed that they just don't like anybody opposing. They want to be an inline good.
Okay, he's opposing them. So why was he doing it?
To show light on them.
I thought it was going to be like the voice for the voiceless.
Okay, the voice of the voiceless. So he's the voice of the voiceless.
In a way.
Who's he trying to use that voice to reach?
Oh, you saw the way better.
There you go. Give him a hand. He's trying to change the white man.
Right.
You can't change the white man. Now, I'm going to go all the way back. So he was sitting, he's trying to change the white man. Change him from what? From murdering us. From killing us. Now, who's killing us? Police.
Right.
You understand? Police brutality goes all the way back even to the American Revolution. Who was the first casualty in the American Revolution?
A black man and also it's right now.
A black man. Anyone know his name? You were there.
I know, but I can't remember his name.
You just Googled it. You just Googled it. You took your slick. I saw that thumb moving a mile a minute.
I got the name though.
Crispus Attucks.
Right.
Crispus Attucks was a slave who got his freedom and was working in the ports of Boston, in the seaports. He was like a mariner. He ended up wanting to fight for the American Revolution, thinking that he would keep his freedom. Once again, trading one devil for another. Remember, the scripture says, though hands join in hand, the wicked shall be punished. You understand? Paraphrasing, of course. Excuse me, that burp was locked, you know. But now, back to the point. What's up, our white man is the devil that the Bible speaks. That's right. I got a 15-minute timer in case I forget to say it. 20, 15, 20, give or take 8. I don't care. Just let me know. So now, what happens is they started protesting. They were protesting in Boston. Hence the Boston Massacre, which it wasn't really a massacre. You know what I'm saying? 5 people died. You know what I'm saying? A massacre is like what the white man did to the damn, you understand, Indians at Wounded Knee.
Right.
What they do to Geronimo, what they do to Sitting Bull, what, you understand? What matter of fact, what they did to us, you understand? I mean, don't get me started on what the Irish did when they revolted during the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? But the first casualty was a brother. You understand? Crispus Attucks was killed after they started throwing snowballs and bottles at the British troops. The British troops opened fire. The brother died. Now, those were the police at the time, the redcoats.
Right.
One of the Adams brothers defended him in the court. Can anybody guess the verdict for those soldiers? Not guilty. Because no government is going to turn on their civil officers. You understand? When they're paying them to keep the slaves in line. That's the whole point. Britain wanted to keep power here. Those British redcoats there were to keep order and to keep everything moving. So that this way Britain could keep getting all their, someone's at the door. So that this way Britain could keep getting all their products. You understand? To keep getting their tobacco. To keep getting their sugar cane. To keep getting their rice. Like, we think like such peons. We don't understand that, like, Britain was literally looking at the American colonies as a resource. They were looking at it just so they could get things that they couldn't grow on that continent. You understand? Shalom, sister. So now, what we get? They looked at Hispaniola like that. Haiti, on the island of Haiti, 95% of the crops were sugarcane. All their food was imported in. That's why Haiti doesn't have any food today. You can go on. White man's the devil that the Bible speaks of. They're making mud pies over there, mud cookies. They're literally using dirt as flour. You understand? You seen that? That's what they're doing to try to survive over there. You understand? No government is going to oppress their own people. You understand? Their own civil servants that they hired to keep the slaves in line. So how is the police department going to change, or how is the police department going to get any different when that's what it was made for? So now let's fast forward a little bit. So now what I want to do is I want to get a little bit of history on where this police department came from and why it's impossible to change it. You understand? Like you cannot change this beast.
Right.
It's impossible to do so. So I'm going to read more of this article. Bear with me. It's going to be a lot of information. As an instrument of oppression and control, modern police departments are deeply rooted in some of the most racist and repressive colonial institutions of the United States. Since the establishment of the first policing systems like the Night Watch, the Barbadian Slave Code, the urban slave patrols, to the professional police forces and other law enforcement agencies, every one of these organizations has had the task of surveilling and controlling the population while imposing and upholding colonial law, mainly through the use of force and coercion. You understand?
So I think, would you be able to read the names of, like, when it's a Night Watch?
The Night Watch, Barbadian Slave Codes, the Urban Slave Patrols. Now, I'm going to break every single one of these down, too. You know what I'm saying? We're going to bring it all the way up to the NYPD. You understand?
That's a lot. I was looking at NYPD, and you know, officers, so I figured out what office they don't hold. Yeah, the mayor's office. But then I found out that NYPD has a branch in Israel.
Yeah, they do. They actually do. Yeah. Because it's almost like it's like a private entity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
he said that the NYPD has a branch over in Israel. Israel uses America like it's muscle. Like, that's who really runs America. You know what I'm saying? But for now, I'll bring it up to the present. That's a little present. We're going in the past. I don't want to get off topic. So now, colonial law enforcement, essentially every colony in the Western Hemisphere, be it French, Spanish, Portuguese, English, because remember, America was divided. The map that you see today, America originally was just like half the East Coast.
Right.
You understand? It was like New England on down. You know what I'm saying? It's 13 colonies. The rest of it was divided up by the French, by Spain, and that's why you have the Louisiana Purchase and Seward's Folly and so on and so forth. All those times that they went and capitalized and got land for pennies to the dollar. You understand? So it says, had difficulties when it came to controlling its slave population and designed similar systems to manage the problem. As early as the 1530s, runaway indigenous and African slaves, now once again, indigenous slaves, don't let anyone tell you that they didn't slave the so-called Indians, you understand?
Right.
Like, what they don't tell you is that, and later on, I'm going to get into this history, a lot of North American Indians were actually shipped to the Caribbean. Like, they took Gad and shipped them to different islands in the Caribbean as slaves. You know what I'm saying? They want to talk about, what the hell was his name that they want to say? Squanto? Squanto went back and forth to Britain at least 3 times. You know what I'm saying? He was like a house Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like the one who the British would use to try to convince the Indians that he was a good person. You know what I'm saying? But we'll get into that come around, you know what I'm saying? Thanksgiving time, I'll do the whole history on that. So now, it says, African-American slaves presented a problem for Spanish invaders in the regions now known as Mexico, meaning the indigenous and African slaves, Cuba, Peru. Some of the first recognized precursors of slave patrols deployed in the 1530s. Remember, they didn't really start going into Africa until like the 1600s, and really like the mid and late 1600s. That's when they picked up. The 1530s were volunteer militia, Santa Hermandad, or the Holy Brothers, which, this is small, which chased fugitives in Cuba. The Hermandad had been established in Spain in the 15th century to repress crime in rural areas then transferred to the Spanish colonies. The Hermandad was later replaced by expert slave hunters known as ranchadores, who regularly employed brutal tactics. These slave catchers used ferocious dogs to capture escapees. You know what that is today? That's the canine. You understand? Like when you go back and you start to see all the methods that they use to keep the slaves in line, they use today to keep the slaves in line. Right. You understand? AKA black and Hispanics in the ghettos of America. In Peru, enslaved and free blacks owned by the municipality of private individuals to the private prison system. You understand? If a brother is in there for life, they own him. You understand? They own him. They can use him for anything that they want, whether it's working for AT&T for pennies to the dollar, any company you can think of. You understand? Which I'm gonna probably add on to this. I'm gonna get into that a little bit next week. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna stick with this over the next few weeks. Really show what they did and how they really are the most subtle beast of the field, man. So now it says the Hermandad was later replaced by expert slave hunters. Slovakia, owned by the municipality on private islands, aided the Spanish in Lima in the apprehension of runaway slaves starting in the 1540s. So they would go ahead, catch the runaways, and they would give them cruel treatment. Administrators of the Spanish and Portuguese empires passed laws to handle slave-related situations, including the capture and punishment of renegades. Eventually, every Caribbean island and mainland settlement created their own rules and regulations and used a combination of former slaves, paid slave catchers, and the militia as apprehenders, all of them forerunners of patrols. And what we're going to find out is that they use this in America. That's what the Night's Watch was, you understand? And they together would combine with the militia, you understand? By the 1640s, Barbados, an English colony, had put in place a formal military structure which included white males, obviously, but also indentured servants and even free blacks, whose primary function were patrolling slaves and prosecuting the island of foreign attacks.
They freed the slaves just now to catch up.
You understand? Yeah, absolutely. You get what I'm saying? Like, today we call them house Negroes. You get what I'm saying? We call them traders. We call them IUIC, whatever you want to know. These are black men who decide to join with the oppressor to keep black and Hispanics oppressed. So, now, though there be no enemy abroad, the keeping of slaves in subjection must still be provided for. The Barbados governor, you understand? Meaning that even though there is nobody coming from abroad to try to take this place over, we have to make sure that they stay in line. You understand? Years later, other English island and mainland colonies adopted the Barbadian slave code as a model, including Jamaica in 1664, South Carolina approximately 1670, and Antigua in 1702. So all these things were precedented and kept trickling down, and evolving. In 1739, the scene in Stono, South Carolina, remember, slavery in America started in the Carolinas, all right, was a white man's nightmare come true. Armed with knives, guns, and drunk, 60 slaves set out for freedom in Florida, singing, dancing, and brutally murdering more than 24 whites along the way. Known as the Stono Rebellion, the revolt was the first major rebellion by slaves in South Carolina and the deadliest one on American soil until the 18th century. While whites held the power in slave-owning South, by the late 1700s, they were beginning to be vastly outnumbered by slaves, because once again, you can't tell me we're not the children of Israel. We're fruitful and multiplied. Remember what happened in Egypt. The more they oppressed us, the more we grew in number. And then what did they say? Let us deal wisely with them. Rather than reveling in dominion over their subjects, white Carolinians were, I don't know if I said that right, but you get the point, were paranoid, fearing for their lives as blacks began to outnumber them almost 2 to 1. The Stono Rebellion brought the point home. In response to the Stono incident, South Carolina became the first of 3 slave-owning states to adopt comprehensive slave codes, which we're going to get into what some of these were. The new code officially established slave patrols or paddy rollers. Y'all know what a paddy roller is. It's called the paddy wagon. You understand? Any of y'all ever been scooped up? I've been scooped up at the corner store. You understand? Been scooped up at the corner store. I was just, you know what I'm saying, trying to buy a soda. Everybody running in, getting loosies. Cats smoking weed, somebody selling something. You see somebody you know, before you know it, they come in, they scoop everybody up. TNT, they taking everybody to jail. You didn't do nothing. You get there in the morning, the judge is like, what the hell you here for? My God. Where'd they hand up?
What's a lot of just gonna say one time they got me literally walking to school. Like I left the store, turned the direction of my school, and they were truancy. So you knew you had to know where my school is. You were truancy up. So it's down just that.
That's the paddy rolls.
Right.
They got my brother and like 10 other people who they basically robbed him.
That's what I'm saying. They don't care. You know what I'm saying? They figure they'll scoop 10 of them. They don't give a damn about ruining your night. And if there was 10, 6 will probably stick. They figure 6 of y'all got weed.
They try to use the money he had on him as a witness to a crime.
You see what I'm saying?
Saying why do you have that much money?
Because it's about policing for profits. They need collars.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they have quotas.
Having money is not a crime.
Okay, it is if you're black. You understand? Doing anything besides keeping your head down and working is a crime if you're black and Hispanic. Sis, you had your hand up?
Yes.
No, go ahead.
So what you're saying is that it's good to it's good to teach our children that related to how history is related to that, right?
No, absolutely. And you might have missed it, but I'm not sure if you were here for it. But I was talking about how important it is. For example, I believe before you got here, we were teaching on how the third stanza, or there's a third part to the national anthem nobody knows about. And I was stating that should be common knowledge, that it's talking about the death of black people and how he's happy about it. Right. That should be as common knowledge as George Washington being the first president in a black or Hispanic home. So we absolutely should teach this to our children, because we got to understand that there is no changing them. You understand? This is why the police do this to us. You know what I'm saying? This is why, you understand, in order for us to have a proper system to police us, we have to get rid of that entire system. Because you can't go in and undo 400, 500, I mean, they borrowed this from the 1530s. So you can't undo over 500 years of damage, over 500 years of institutionalism. You know what I'm saying? It's impossible. So we got to understand it. So absolutely, we should teach all of this to our children. Get your hand up.
Yeah, going back to the money thing, they actually have units across the country, cops that pull people over and only search for money and take your money. And then they say, like, oh, if you ain't doing nothing wrong, just come and bring proof why you got it. And they take money, and it takes months to get anything back.
Yeah, they had a squad like that goes from borough to borough. You know what I'm saying? Some of them, that's, I remember, I mean, sidebar, but I remember just if I got pulled over by undercovers, I didn't care about nothing. Because I knew I wasn't getting a ticket. Right. And I had nothing on me. Right. You know what I'm saying? If blue and white picked me up, they might hurt my pockets. You know what I'm saying? But them other cats, they're just looking for drugs. Right. You know what I'm saying? Which you're not going to find them. Right. So it's actually more of a relief now. But now, I mean, in the truth, we don't got to worry about none of that. I can't tell you how many times I get pulled over, I get let go. In the world, I used to get ripped out the car, slammed on the hood, you understand, like damn near molested. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like groping you, all that. Now, I got what do you call it? I get pulled over. This is how it goes every time. You know what I'm saying? I used to have attitude. What you pull me over for? Now, I roll down the window, I got my license and ID ready for them. You want to know why? Because I'm not a criminal. Right. You get what I'm saying? My heart don't got a flutter no more. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't got nothing in the trunk anymore. I don't got nothing in the stash spot. What's the point? I give it to them. So they're overwhelmed that I'm prepped. And they're flipping through. Oh, this is good? You don't got none on your license? No. You know what I'm saying? They're like, no, I'm going to run this. If it's clean, I'll let you go. It's the easiest 5 minutes of my life. Kick my feet up, talk to somebody. They come back, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times it happens with my rep on the phone. She's like, I don't even worry about you anymore. She's like, I know you're fine. We don't got to worry about that. Same thing when it comes down, when you're inside here, this is one of the main things. I don't want to get too far off topic because there's a lot of history here, but for example, that Coon the RZA turned around and stated that black people die in America because of how we dress. Right. You get what I'm saying? As if that really matters. As if the white man wasn't hanging people in suits. Right. You get what I'm saying? But the point is that if you wear a hoodie, you're a drug dealer. They paint us as criminals. As a nation, we have a bad reputation. Well, the I.S.U.P.K has an excellent reputation. I don't know how many of you were there at camp. How many of you were there at camp when the damn meter maid was walking by? He went to check the car. He seen me looking at the corner of his eye. He looked. He goes, wait, this is your car? Right. I said, yeah. He goes, I don't got to check it then. I know you're good. Right. Brother in D.C. was walking. Cops ran, patty rollers ran up on him. You fit the description of somebody who committed a crime. You understand? So now they're about to, you know what I'm saying, ransack him. You know what I'm saying? Then they noticed he had a patch on his book bag that said I.S.U.P.K with the shield to David. He went, wait, we're with them brothers that's up the block? They said, let him go. It wasn't him. You understand? Because they know we keep the laws. I see, I'll hold you guys in a second. They know we keep the laws of the land, and they know that we keep, you understand, the laws of the Most High. We've built that reputation, and nobody better ever ruin that. That's right. Okay?
Me, Zabal Wan, and Karab, coming from class. I think he's going to class, right?
Yeah, we're going to
class. They followed us like blocks. Stopped us, looked in the car. So what are y'all doing? Saw Bibles. It was like, oh, y'all, I don't want nothing to happen to me. Like, cop said, I don't want nothing to happen to me. So, yeah.
You understand? Because really, what y'all gonna notice is that we're really the authority out there. I don't know if y'all noticed, the cops are afraid when they approach us. Okay. I've seen it countless amounts of times. Like, they come up. One time, they tried to cut the mic off. This is a while ago. You know what I'm saying? And then the dude's like, look, I'm sorry, I'm just doing my job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, coming over there pleading and whatnot, because we're the authority. It's like if any of y'all work the camera, when people stop and go, oh, can I look in front of it? Right. You get what I'm saying? Because they know better. You know what I'm saying? We are that authority because we serve a higher power than a superpower called America. Right. We serve the highest power, right, the Most High. You understand? All right, so what happened is that, just to give a little recap, I know we got a little bit off topic. They adopted Barbadian slave codes from the Spaniards. They came into America, and then now they started making slave codes because of a slave rebellion that took place in the Carolinas. So as a result, now they said we need to instill fear inside the slaves. So now, these patty rollers were groups of white men charged through civic duty to keep slaves down and to keep revolts from happening. That sounds like the NYPD to me. Right. You understand? They're the subject of the new book, Slave Patrols, Harvard University Press, by the Florida State historian Sally Hayden, PhD at Harvard, which studies the roots, rules, procedures, progress, disintegration, and legacy of Southern slave patrols in Virginia and the Carolinas in the 18th and 19th centuries. It is perhaps the most all-encompassing view of a yet overlong chapter of Southern history. Because, once again, most of us don't know this. We come on the planet, NYPD is just the boys. You know what I'm saying? We don't know that. General Muhammad will take you even deeper. He'll show you why they all wear blue. You know what I'm saying? All that goes back to Rome. That was red, white, and blue goes back to Rome. You go even further than that. Red, white, and blue is in Egypt. Remember, this is spiritually Egypt. You know what I'm saying? But that's also off topic. You know what I'm saying? Is it on topic?
Let you know soon.
White man's the devil. I like this. I like this thing. It's therapeutic. So now, all white men, age 6, hear this good. Young brother, how old is he?
He's 7.
He's 7. You understand?
He loves you guys, by the way.
Listen, most high in Christ, man. You know what I'm saying? So now, all white men age 6 to 60. So they would start 1 year younger than him. Look how young he is. You know what I'm saying? Get a young man a hand, Eddie, in here. You know what I'm saying? So now, I ain't mean to put you on the spot, though, bro. So now, we're required to enlist and conduct armed patrols every night. So now, armed patrols. We got armed patrols, don't we? You understand? What do? They walk the beat. Y'all walk outside, you might see one on the corner over here, walking back and forth. You understand? Searching slave residences. You understand? That's called the unwarranted search. You understand? Breaking up slave gatherings. That's when you're in the corner. Whoop, whoop. What y'all doing over here? Disperse. Disperse.
Right.
You understand?
So like they call it loitering now.
Loitering. Laws against loitering. But if they saw slaves gathering together in a place, what would they do? Come through and break it up. Ain't that what they do?
Right.
Breaking up slave gatherings and protecting communities by destroying ours. You understand? By patrolling the roads, meaning what? That's them driving up and down the block all day and night. Unmarked cars, marked cars.
Right. It's a lot. Me and Karab was walking to Karab's house. And Officer Karab walking to Karab's house. You know, we got the full guard on. And cop stopped us, actually coming from a party or something. Now we Israelites. Like, there was one heathen and one Israelite. The Israelite knew who Israelites were, the heathen didn't. But the heathen was like, where y'all from? What y'all doing here? We're like, this is our neighborhood. Like, where are you from? You sound from Long Island. I'm like, you're not from here telling me why I'm here. This is my neighborhood. Like you come from some other neighborhood.
You the stranger.
Yeah, like you can tell me right by his house. What you doing here? It's like, I'm going home. What are you doing here?
And you know why? Because we're the slaves.
Right.
You understand? So now, in the countryside, hear this good. In the countryside, such patrols were to visit every plantation within their respective districts. You know what that is? That's precincts. 120, 121. You understand?
Right.
So far, so on and so forth. And whenever they thought it necessary to search and examine all Negro houses for offensive weapons and ammunition. I don't know if y'all ever got this. I'm at Captain Zakar's, you understand? The cops came through one time. There was a domestic disturbance, you understand, from the next door neighbor. So they knocked on our door just asking if we heard anything. You know what I'm saying? Like they were brawling like cat and dogs, you know what I'm saying? They moved, you know what I'm saying? Right. So it's a long time ago, but longer the story short, the cops went in, have you guys heard anything or anything? Then they turn around, and now I know how to deal with them. So when I talk to them, you either talk to them through the damn chain lock so they can't come in, or you step outside and close the door behind you so they can't come in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did. So then the broad turns around to me and asks, you have any guns or ammunition on the property? You understand? What are they supposed to do? Search Negro houses for offensive weapons and ammunition. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then like when she seen me get offended and then look at a partner, he was like, we ask everyone, trying to cover for her. Sure as hell don't ask everybody, goddamn it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Knock it off. But this is who's got the illegal weapons, right? That's what they propagate. So now, they were also authorized to enter any disorderly tipping houses or other houses suspected of harboring, trafficking, or dealing with Negroes, and could inflict corporal punishment on any slave found to have left his owner's property without permission. You understand? This is this is literally, what are you doing in another neighborhood?
Right.
You understand? You ain't from around here.
Right.
What are you doing in this area? Slave patrols had power and authority to enter any plantation and break open Negro houses or other places when slaves were suspected of keeping arms, to punish runaways or slaves outside their plantations without a pass. Bro, that's Rodney King. You understand? This is any bad Saturday night any of y'all had in the world. You understand? And to apprehend and take any slave suspected of stealing or other criminal offenses and bring him to the nearest magistrate. Meaning what? They don't even need probable cause, which is basically they don't use that now. They don't use probable cause for us. Right. Every slave owning state had active established patrols, and though they had many functions within the community, they had one basic job: to act as the first line of defense against the slave rebellion. Sounds real familiar. You know what it sounds? It sounds like Baltimore after Freddie Gray. The police couldn't handle it. The first line of defense couldn't handle it. So what do? They bring in the militia. You understand? They bring in the troops. So now, they caught runaway slaves, enforced slave codes, discouraged any large gathering of blacks, and generally perpetuated the atmosphere of fear that kept slaves in line. And that's why our people are afraid today. You understand? Good?
They do that now with organizations, because I'm a mentor. And what I realized about the organizations, they do that now. Like the organizations infiltrate it to watch. Like they have people who watch, make sure they don't get too many services, and make sure it's not like a black, who they call a revolutionary organization. So they do that, like.
They have to do that because they can't give any aid to us. They have to keep us disorganized. You get what I'm saying? Because if we rise, they'll fall. Right. You know what I'm saying? But that's an excellent point. So now, sample slave codes. The slave codes of the tobacco colonies: Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia. Remember, this like you look at, like, you live in Maryland, you look at Maryland like that's your neighborhood. Somebody like a Rockefeller looks at Maryland as just tobacco. You understand? Because he owns the tobacco, or is trading for it, or is gaining it. Because he's not a peon. You get what I'm saying? And that's how it's going to be one day for us, just like it was for Solomon's time. Right. Solomon looked at this one land. I don't know the name of it. It's in Kings. I'm going to get it for y'all in a little bit. This one land where heathens were is just a store city. Looked at another one as where he got his lumber from. Because when you're in rulership, that's how you look at the people you have dominion over. You understand? That's like what the kingdom of heaven is going to be like. Were modeled on the Virginia Code established in 1667. The 1682 Virginia Code prohibited slaves from possessing weapons, leaving their owner's plantation without permission, and lifting a hand against a white person, even in self-defense. So now, you know what that sounds like? It's like if you defend yourself against a cop, right, what happens? Assaulting an officer. Right. You understand? You can't harm an officer, even if he randomly just decides to stall off on you. You understand? If you even brush up on him, that's assault. Right. You touched him. Can't touch him at all.
If you say the wrong thing, it's over.
You understand?
You can't be proven. There's laws that just, one father was a detective. He was telling me, like, there's laws they use just because you can't.
Because you can't beat them.
But he can bring anyone in this over the counter. It really does not. Your word means nothing to like a cop.
And you know why? Because who is the judge going to believe? This man in the beautiful uniform who serves his city, or just another nigga on the street? You get what I'm saying? Right. We don't have the reputation. You understand? But they believe us when we walk in there, because they know that we're different from everybody else, because we are holy. We are Kodash. We are separate from everybody else. Right. You understand? Even these fake Israelite groups, you could tell the difference from us. You understand? It's uncanny from our camp setup. alone, from our signs alone. You understand? They know that we're different. You understand? And the one thing that they could always say, they can hate us, they sit there and they got discipline. They know nobody else has the discipline that we have, which is what you need to run a nation. So now, in addition, a runaway slave refusing to surrender could be killed without penalty. You know what that sounds like? Sounds like Walter Scott.
Right.
Walter Scott got out the car, started running. Pulled the gun out, shot him 6 times in the back. Killed without penalty. That cop got off.
Right.
He was running. Like, what you're going to see is literally the parallel that we have never left slavery.
Right.
You understand? South Carolina establishes its slave code in 1712 with the following provisions. Slaves were forbidden to leave the owner's property unless they attained permission or were accompanied by a white person. That's you walking through another neighborhood, and then they say, "What are you doing here?" "I'm working." "What house are you working in?" "Ding dong. Is he here? Is he actually?" "Oh, okay, no problem." There's your white companion. You understand? Any slave attempting to run away and leave the colony received the death penalty. Any slave who evaded capture for 20 days or more was to be publicly whipped for the first offense, branded with the letter R on the right cheek for the second offense, lose 1 ear if absent for 30 days for the third offense, and castrated for the fourth offense.
So you could attempt, if you attempt to leave and they catch, they kill you. But if you actually get away, they're not going to kill you. They're just going to make an example out of you, like brand you and all that.
Yeah, basically. And it's gonna get worse each time. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, they wanted to. I don't really care about this bastard too much, but Jamie Foxx, they wanted to castrate him in Django. Remember, I don't know if y'all saw the movie when he was upside down. They were supposed to castrate him, but he said he won't finish shooting if they try that. You know what I'm saying? But that's really what happened.
These are the laws in Virginia, you're saying?
These were the slave codes that were established in Virginia after 1712.
Okay, after 1712?
Yep, the slave codes that I stated earlier were for Delaware, Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia. This is the progression of them. As they started to go on, they started to intensify.
So what was that year for the South Carolina?
Carolina was 1712. Slaves were forbidden. Hold up, nope. Where's the next one? Okay, owners refusing to abide by the slave code were fined and forfeited ownership of their slaves. So you had to do this to them.
Right.
You couldn't. But it was law for you to not show mercy to them.
So they essentially they made law out of the establishment.
Listen, it's institutionalized racism. We've been systematically and institutionally oppressed. Understand? Slave homes were searched every 2 weeks for weapons or stolen goods. Punishment for violations included loss of an ear, branding, nose slitting, and death. It's ridiculous. No slave was allowed to work for pay, to plant corn, peas, or rice, or to keep hogs, cattle, or horses, or to own or operate a boat, to buy or sell or wear clothes finer than Negro cloth. Virginia's slave code was revised in 1739 to the following amendments. No slave could be taught to read or write, work on Sunday, or work more than 15 hours per day in the summer and 14 hours in winter. Willful killing of a slave exacted a fine of 700 pounds and passion killing 350. The fine for concealing runaway slaves was $1,000 and a prison sentence of up to 1 year. Do you know how much this was back then?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like 1,000 was like what? Like 100,000? Something like 70,000? Something like that? Like, it's crazy.
So even if a white person didn't want to do it, they had to because of the law, right?
Exactly. Otherwise, they could be fined, which meant they made it law to oppress us, just like the laws I was talking about that they made after Labor Day. You know what I'm saying? To make sure that we couldn't get any of the jobs. So now, a fine of 106 months in prison were imposed for employing any black or slave of protecting themselves from the next incarnation of slave patrols, the Ku Klux Klan. You understand? Once these slave patrols, like the Night Watch and so on and so forth, got outlanded, they put the hoods on. The legacy of slavery and racism did not end after the Civil War. In fact, it can be argued that extreme violence against people of color became even worse with the rise of vigilante groups who resisted Reconstruction. Because vigilantes, by definition, have no external restraints. Lynch mobs had a justified reputation for hanging minorities first and asking questions later. Because of the devil, because of its tradition of slavery, which rested on the racist rationalization that blacks were subhuman, America had a long and shameful history of mistreating people of color long after the end of the Civil War. Perhaps the most infamous American vigilante group, the Ku Klux Klan, started in the 1860s, was notorious for assaulting and lynching black men for transgression. That would not be considered crimes at all had a white man committed them. Sound real familiar, right? Lynching occurred across the entire county, not just in the South. Excuse me, the entire country, not just in the South. Finally, in 1871, Congress passed the Ku Klux Klan Act, which prohibited state actors from violating the civil rights of all citizens in part because of law enforcement's involvement with the infamous group. You understand? Meaning these are your police officers. Captain Zaryak said something funny, man. He's like, you know what I'm saying? That rally that all those white supremacists had, why you didn't see any police there was for the same reason you don't see Peter Parker and Spider-Man at the same place. You understand? Same damn people. So now, this legislation, however, did not stem the tide of racial or ethnic abuse that persisted well into the 1960s. The similarities between the slave patrols and modern American policing are too salient to dismiss or ignore. Hence, the slave patrols should be considered a forerunner for modern American law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? So it gets deeper. You know what I'm saying? But overall, y'all could see the parallels that come between the two. So now, yeah.
Islam, sir. I think about the KKK and how all the rallies are protected. You know what I mean? They're protected groups. And it's like, how can a criminal organization be protected by the police? You know, like, they have RICO law. Literally, you can't put a man down on your face in New York. That's illegal.
Okay. Because they are the police. That's the point. You get what I'm saying? Like we gotta get rid of the disillusions of equality. How could they do this? Because they're freemen. You get what I'm saying? That's the difference. I'll give you a second. I see that. That's the difference between us and them. And that's why that scripture, when it turns around, it says that I shall make thee jealous with a nation that is a no people, because thou hast moved me to jealousy with gods that are no God. Yo, I'm jealous of these other nations. You understand? And especially like in an aspect of this devil, because listen, man, I love hip hop. I'd go in hip hop groups and terrorize white people and tell them they're not hip hop, they can't be a part of hip hop, you didn't start hip hop. Right. You know what I'm saying? And they will fight you tooth and nail to act like they are the Grandmaster Flash of hip hop, like some founding father member, or it belongs to me, because they're free. Right. You can't tell someone who's free he can't do something. Right. A free man is going to fight you. A free man is going to have a backbone. That's why those bastards are rioting, you understand, all throughout the country, because they're free. You can't take away our history. You can't take away our Confederate flag. You can't take away our statues of General E. Lee, because we're free. But when it comes down to us, hands up, don't shoot. Comes down to us, I'm gonna just take a knee. Right. You know what I'm saying? Comes down to us, we just beg. We just march. We don't do anything that we're supposed to. Zabala one first, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to add a precept for that whole, that it false illusion that they give us of equality and justice.
Good.
Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords.
So now, without a doubt, you understand? His words were smoother than butter. Now, what happens? He puts forth his hand against them. That's what he did to the North American Indians. That's what he does to us when we protest. That's what he does to us, period. You understand? And he breaks all the covenants. Any agreement that he has, so you can't get free with paperwork. Doesn't matter. He's never planned on honoring it in the first place. So now, with everything that you see, what has changed from the 1500s in policing up till now? Nothing. Not a damn thing. So do you think one man kneeling down is going to work? You understand?
I was arguing with a brother earlier. I had to tell him, like, silent protest is oxymoron. You cannot protest silently. To protest means speech. It means be outlandish. You can't have a silent protest.
Right.
That's like a sit stand.
And that's the difference between us and them once again, because history is written by the winners. One of the things that I'm going to teach in this class also is I'm going to show you that the founding fathers protested.
Right.
The founding fathers were rebel rousers. I don't know if y'all ever heard of the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty was like John Adams, Sam Adams, what's the other devil's name? Benjamin Franklin. You know what I'm saying? Thomas Paine. Like all those devils that you know that are famous in American history, they were a gang of white men who went around extorting and harassing, you know what I'm saying, breaking into houses, busting windows open, you know what I'm saying? Like, they were literally a gang. Now, if the British would have won, they would have been hung. They would have been called rebel rousers. You understand? They wouldn't be known as Schlosser. They wouldn't be known as rebel rousers. They wouldn't be they would be known as criminals today if Britain won. But history is written by the winners. But they stood up and they fought. You understand? They stood up, they fought, and they won their freedom because once again, the white man will fight you tooth and nail. And when they went, and not to get too, you know what I'm saying, into it, because I want us to make that a separate lesson. I don't got enough time for what I want to get into for that. But the difference between them, and you had your hand up as well as Apollo one, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you in a second. The difference is that it's almost like the same reason why like okay, for example, white people don't want who knows why white people fight for their guns so much? Raise your hand. Oh, who knows why white folks fight for the rights to own their guns so much? Get your hand first.
They don't want the government to have they don't want to be slaves. They want to be us.
They don't want to be us. Give them a hand. They don't want to become black and Hispanics. You understand? Right. That's the difference between us and them. They will fight tooth and nail for that. And here's the difference. It didn't take that many people to die before they started protesting. In fact, what was the main reason why they fought? What was one of the main reasons why they had beef with Britain? Taxation without representation. They weren't getting killed in the streets like that. They weren't enslaved. They were hurting their pockets. That's how you get to the white man. You hurt his pockets. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference. You can't even tax them before they'll start a revolution and kill everything that moves, man. But us, all we want is a job. And just treat us fairly on that job. We'll work for you. Mr. White Man. You understand?
They'll fight tooth and nail, like you said, but all of their whatever they want. But to us, they teach us that we gotta trust in them. What they got, and with that, the precept I got is Isaiah 31:1.
Good.
It's woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong.
Now you're using that to bring out what?
Okay. The protest that we're doing to trust in like
In Egypt.
in Egypt, we're trusting in Egypt. We want them to save us, but they're mighty and they got money and they think they're giving us 2 jobs for the change of the day.
What should we do?
We should go back to the Lord's commandments.
Which really we should go back to who?
The Lord.
To the Lord side.
Right.
Instead of going to Egypt.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And that's an excellent precept. That's what we do. We try to rely on them. And that's what Kaepernick's doing. He's thinking that this great nation, with all the chariots, with all the tanks, with all the predator drones, with the military might going to the moon, it should be able to protect us.
Right.
But we have to break away from that illusion, because if we understood history, just this basic history, you'd know when they killed Walter Scott, they were doing their job.
Right.
When they killed Freddie Gray, they were doing their job. Zimmerman did his job. You understand? The problem is we got to get away from those people. You understand what first? Go ahead.
You gotta stop thinking so small. You know what I mean? Like they say it costs like I think $5 billion for parts. They took $5 billion and said, let's just go, blow, let's go to Mars, maybe we won't. You know what I mean? And our community waste by giving them that money. We waste all the resources. It's like we're in charge of all the municipalities in this land.
But now you know why the white man can do that?
Charge.
Because he's free.
Right.
See, this is the thing. And this is why I don't like to get in talks with a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of science is good. You understand? Electrical engineering is good. You know, astrology is cool. You know what I'm saying? Not astronomy, not astrology. Excuse me. Astronomy is cool. If there's other planets, all that stuff is cool. Valid sciences, things to think about. But there are things to think about when you have a nation. When you have a nation, a fully functional society, you can worry about going to Mars to expand land for the same reason you want to go explore the Caribbean to find a new island. You know what I'm saying? You want to go explore the Pacific to find a new landmass. Maybe find a sunken city. Let's find out about them, because we got nothing but time on our hands. We can advance our society. How the hell could we worry about that with crack coins?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like how the hell could we worry about that with 400,000 abortions?
Right.
How could we worry about that with all these women dressing like hoes all over the television? How could we worry about that with all the brothers dressing like hoes on the television?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, we could focus on going to Mars. You understand? Once we get our people off Mars. You know what I'm saying? What do I mean by that? Well, people are spaced out.
Right.
They got to get off drugs. You get what I'm saying? Like we gotta learn how to love our brother as ourselves. We gotta learn how to prefer each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We gotta learn things like microeconomics. You know what I'm saying? Which really, that the Bible says, spend among your own. You know what I'm saying? Don't give your inheritance to somebody else. That's why it was so important for him to not talk about, for the Lord to make rules against interracial marriage.
Right.
Because your inheritance is so much, man. Like, yo, listen, damn Jay-Z, but you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna use him as a teaching tool right now. What he said on that thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, you want to know how the Jews keep their money together? You know what I'm saying? I bought a million. I bought a painting for $1 million. You understand? Next year was worth $2 million. Next year was worth $8 million. I plan to give that to my children. It's inheritance. That's equity. Now, your daughter goes and marries a devil. It's the only child that you had. You just left it to her. Who's inheriting it? Another nation.
Right.
You understand? So what is the Lord telling us there? You need to pass things on to future generations in order to grow, in order to expand. And if you're giving it away to another race, your race can't survive. Your race can't grow in power. Your race can't grow in might. And then once you keep your inheritance, don't chase after anyone else's wealth. Because chasing after their wealth, you're going to lose yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an economic plan. You know what I'm saying? We got to spend against each other. Like, listen, I stopped buying jewelry from King Ice because you make jewelry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you had a product, I'd buy your product. And here's another thing. We got to stop looking for handouts. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you make a bracelet, I shouldn't want a deal on it. I should want to support my brother. You know what I'm saying? If you make headpieces, I should want to buy your headpieces for full price. If I make music, don't download it illegally, which I do. I'm coming to your house. No, I'm just saying what's up. But the point being is, you know what I'm saying? Even if you don't like my music, support it anyway because I'm your brother.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like why? Because that's how we'll grow as a nation. Like, do you think these fake Jews steal each other's music illegally? They're buying everything from Modest Yahoo.
Right.
Whatever his name is. You know what I'm saying?
They taking advantage of the whole streaming thing. They have a service that just play the songs, so it comes to streams, so it comes to money. You know what I mean? We pay for streams, and have a server set up, just run the song.
Keep getting it. And you know what? That's because they love their people. So we got to do that amongst each other. We got to do that amongst ourselves.
Right.
And like that, we'll be able to rise. But if we keep living that beggar's life, you know what I'm saying? If we keep turning to them and seeking after their wealth and their empire, we'll never have our own. And we're so disillusioned. And that American flag, that "Oh say can you see" and Donderly Light and all that, it's got us brainwashed. Like, cause it's as you get older, we get so far removed from the schools and high schools and intermediate schools that we went to. You know, we forget the brainwashing of pledging allegiance every day. We forget the brainwashing of when they made us make a turkey out of a paper plate. We forget the brainwashing of when they made us make a little Nina Pinta Santa Maria in the first grade in kindergarten and make this place to be, you know what I'm saying, so far out that. I'll give you another example. I'm a campus less added. I don't know if y'all saw me on the side talking to the sister and her son that was listening for most of the day. But he kept saying, like, when I asked him a question, like, for example, I'm gonna give you one of the main questions just to sum it up. You know what I'm saying? I asked him, I said, can you love America and bin Laden at the same time? And he said, no. I said, bro, that's an honest answer. I said, but why? He said, because he hurt us. I said, here's the problem. You said us like America cares about you. You're not a part of America. Bin Laden didn't fly those into the projects on 135th.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? He didn't fly them in the Queensbridge. He didn't come uptown. Flew them planes into downtown. That wasn't an assault on us. There's a dividing line here. You know what I'm saying? That was beef between him and white people. You know what I'm saying? So why are you saying us? Because that brother's brainwashed. And the whole conversation that I'm having with him, he's trying to get me to love white people. He keeps saying, but if after they serve their slavery and whatever, after their punishment, then would you forgive them? I said, brother, you keep trying to get me to love them. You keep trying to get me to forgive them. So now this is where I got him. I said, if somebody came and murdered your mother, now I turned to the mother, put my arm around her. I'm like, God forbid. God forbid this ever happen. I don't want this to happen. But let's say it did. Would you be a good son if you went and hung out with that killer? He says, no. I said, what would you want to see happen to him? Do you know what he said to me? Right answer, but wrong answer. He said, I would kill him. I said, brother, that's perfect love. The hatred you have for him is a perfect love for your people. I said, now here's the problem. Brother, I say this with love to you. You're selfish.
Right.
I said, because you want to know why? And Natazar was next to me. I said, you won't kill for him.
Right.
You won't kill for me. And then I said, never mind you killing. You don't want God to kill for Mike Brown.
Right.
You don't want God to kill for Trayvon.
Right.
You understand? I said, because none of those deaths hit close to home.
Right.
You understand? This hit close to home. This is personal. I said, the problem is that your allegiances are in the wrong place. You should have that allegiance with me, with your brother, because those deaths that I named, every single one of them hit home for me. Every single one of those was my people. I felt every single one of those deaths. You got to feel the same way about that. And then you'll understand. But see how young he was. And I seen how brainwashed he is, or was. Just remember that we're in Babylon. And what did Babylon do? Bring all nations together. Everybody was of one speech. Everybody was of one mind. And that's how America is. And that's why our people are so disillusioned. But in any society, even with that witchcraft that they have on our mind that we're all together, the basis of any society is an aristocracy, a ruling class, and a slave class. You can't have one without the other. You understand? When we have a kingdom, there's going to be a ruling class. It's going to be the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, and there will be a slave class. There will be servants, and it's going to have to be them. Otherwise, it can't be heaven. It's not heaven if I'm digging my own ditch. It's not heaven if I got to turn my own field over. I don't know. You know farming better than me. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about with farming. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get the soil right for plants. You know what I mean? My slave will know how to do it. I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me about music. I'll see you in the studio. All right, but the point being is that it's not slavery if I got the offside podcast in first. Okay? The white man's the devil. Oh, it's 5 minutes left? Well, the white man's the devil that the Bible speaks of. All right. Wait, hold, no, your hand was up first. I'll get you after this.
Classes. We made also the polygons at work. We detail the cars and stuff like that. You know, it's a lot to do, right? So we finished detailing all these cars, and the boss had his car parked in such a Porsche, right? Clean as a whistle. He sees us stop detailing and we finished. He looks at us. He's like, "You my boys." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I literally think clean. Like I didn't need to be clean. He just couldn't stand us not. We finished the work. There's no work to do. There's no work to do. We finished all of it. We did our job and finished everything. Couldn't stand us not moving, basically.
Yeah. Why are you idle, slave?
Right.
You understand? That was the problem. Let me show you that this is even in the Bible. Give me Isaiah 51 and 20. And read it nice and loud when you got it. And Slock, you said you had your hand up?
So basically, we need to start teaching our children. I homeschool, part-time homeschool, so that's why I'm trying to do it, say it in the right way for the kids. So we basically need to teach them about nations. Like, this is not our nation, right?
Like,
that's what I know y'all do teach, like nation, which is important.
We're a nation,
right,
inside of a nation. And under the foot of another nation, if you could understand the context. You know what I'm saying? America's not our land. White people are not our race.
Right.
But in this land of America, that race has their foot on our necks. We are a completely separate nation of people. And we got to start thinking like one, because the Asians do. The East Indians do. They don't come over here and land of the free, home of the brave. You know what I'm saying? Like go whatever. You know what I'm saying? They just do it. They just deal with and love their people. You know what I'm saying? Who got it? I got it. Okay. Nice and loud.
Book of Isaiah chapter 51 verse 20. Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the street.
What's the head of the street? That's the corner. Where are black and Hispanics found today? You understand? And they faint. They lie at the corner of the streets. Where was Eric Garner's body found? On the corner. Go ahead.
As a wild bull in a net.
As a wild bull in a net, trapped with that devil's arm around his neck, like a net. You understand? Go ahead.
They are full of the fury of the Lord.
And you know what that devil around Eric Garner's neck was? The fury of the Lord. You understand? Because now, I'm not saying that that devil don't got to die for touching the Lord's people. You understand? The Lord takes no pleasure in destroying the wicked, but he'd rather see them turn from their ways. But if we don't change, we could end up just like that. If we leave these laws, we leave this body, we leave this presence and protection, cop is killing any single one of us. As we learned earlier, that's their job. Read on.
The rebuke of thy God.
You understand? The Lord's been rebuking us. That's why he's been destroying us. Okay?
Verse 21. Therefore, hear now this, thou afflicted.
And that's us in America. Black and Hispanics are afflicted. Go ahead.
And drunken, but not with wine.
Yeah.
Verse 22. Thus saith the Lord, the Lord, and thy God, that pleadeth the cause of his people.
Now, if we're not drunk with wine, right now, the Lord's saying this, and he's pleading with us. He's pleading with us so that we could sober up. What are we drunk on?
Lies. And,
what kind of lies?
Equality.
Equality.
White man's philosophy.
White Christianity, all that. You understand? We're drunk with America.
Right.
We're drunk with from sea to shining sea. We're drunk with say the. I'm not gonna sing it. You understand? But this is what we're drunk off. We're drunk off the American dream.
Right.
Read on.
Behold, I have taken out of thy hand the cup.
Now, there's something else that we're drinking. And there's a cup that the Lord wants to take out of our hand. Let's read it first. Good.
The cup of trembling.
Cup of what?
Trembling.
So now, this cup that we keep drinking, this democracy, this God loves everybody, this Christianity, it's trembling like this. What does that mean? If I give you a cup and when you get it, now you trembling. What does that tell you about the contents of the cup?
Scared to drink it?
You're scared to drink it. Why would you be afraid to drink it?
It's poison.
Because it's poison. The Lord wants to take that cup of poison out of our hand. We don't got to keep drinking the ideas of equality.
Right.
You understand? We don't got to keep drinking being a Democrat or a Republican. We don't got to keep drinking God loves everybody. We don't got to keep drinking hands up, don't shoot. We don't got to keep drinking any of this. Read on.
Even the dregs of the cup of my fury.
What is the dregs of a cup?
Like a phone.
The bottom. Like y'all ever have a beer? You ever notice that the ass of the beer doesn't taste like the rest of the beer?
Yeah.
That's the dredge of the cup. All the worst part, like your gas tank. You're not supposed to run your gas tank all the way on the bottom because that's where the sludge is at. That gets in your engine and messes up your pistons. Before you know it, you're leaking oil out your pistons because it messes up your the hell are those things called? Gaskets. You know what I'm saying? I know a little something now. You know what I'm saying? But like that's what starts to happen. And the dredge of his fury, meaning what? The lowest hell. These punishments. Getting murdered by the police, having this system, this institutional racism over us, this system of oppression. We don't have to keep drinking that. The Lord wants to take it out of our hands. and remove us from sipping the dredge. Remove us from sipping this trembling cup. Good?
Thou shalt no more drink it again.
We shall no more drink it again. We're done with that. Good?
Verse 23. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee.
What?
But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee.
Meaning what? If it's not in our hand, it's got to be in someone else's. But what were you going to say? Whose hand is it going into?
It's going to go into the white man's hand.
Because he's the one who afflicts us.
Right.
You understand? We don't have to keep drinking it. But what does that mean? There's a ruling class. There's a lower class. Somebody's on top. Somebody's being afflicted. That cup has to go into somebody's hand. It's got to get out of our hand. Read on.
Which has said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over.
Hold on. They said to our what?
To thy soul.
They said to our soul. The white man, he even wants your soul.
Right.
It's not enough that we got his last name. It's not enough that we speak his language. It's not enough that he murdered us and kills us, but he needs to take our spirit from us. He wants you to cut your beard. Hold your peace for me. He wants you to buzz your head. Doesn't want you to have your braids. Doesn't want you to have any identity whatsoever. He wants to take your soul from you.
That was like wash my tires.
What's up?
So that was like wash my tires.
Right. That was it. That was exactly. You understand? Wanted your soul. It wasn't enough. You understand that you cleaned the car, that you did your duty. He needs to take everything from you.
It's like a
The what? Good?
And thou hast laid thy body as the ground.
Thou hast what?
Laid thy body as the ground.
And so you know what we did? We laid ourselves down. You understand? We became willing slaves, homeborn slaves, hirelings. You understand? We decided that we wanted to do what Martin Luther King said and take out the trash like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. We laid ourselves down and became the ground, became a low state. And when you're the ground, what does that mean? Everybody else is trampling over you. Right. Go ahead.
And as the street to them that went over.
And as the street to those that trample over us. We became the perfect slaves. You know what that means? They couldn't go to the moon if we weren't in slavery.
Right.
They couldn't have Disney World if we weren't in slavery. They can't have Beverly Hills if we're not in slavery. You couldn't have America without us being the ground that they walk on to make it down that path. But what's the good news?
That they're going to be our slaves.
What does it say right in front of you? But he'll put that in the hand of them that afflict us. So they'll become the ground that we walk on. They'll get the dredge of the Lord's wrath. You understand? Which is what needs to happen if we want to live and survive. In every society, someone's on the top, someone's on the bottom. We'll be a nation. You understand? And there'll be other nations in our nation under our foot. That's how it's got to be. And if you don't want that, you're in the wrong place. If you don't want that, you will trade it to your people, to your race, to your God, to your children, to your future generations, to your woman, to every essence of your being. And this is the wrong place for you to be in.
Like, would Matthew 6:24 be a precept for this topic?
Read it for me.
It says, no man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other.
That's a perfect precept. No man can serve two masters. You'll love one and hate the other, meaning what? That white love will make you hate black.
That's right.
You can't serve two masters. You can't love the white man and love God. You can't love the white man and love your people. Remember, you can't love America and bin Laden. So that's what I told that child. I said, so how can you love white America and black people. You understand? They hate Bin Laden just because he knocked down one building. You understand? 3,000 people. That's how many people died in Black Wall Street. What about the lynching? What about the crack? What about the heroin? What about the cocaine? What about the 2 million black men that's in the prison system right now? What about Mike Brown? What about Trayvon? What about your ancestors? What about the 99 million that just died crossing the Atlantic? 25 million so-called Mexican Indians, 77 million North American Indians. Like, do I have to go on? What about them? At what point does he deserve your hate? At what point do we deserve our love? And this is what I'm going to end the class on. This is what I told him. I said, brother, don't worry about hate. I got enough hate in my heart for the both of us. You know what I'm saying? But here's what you'll learn. When you really love your people, focus on the love. The hate's going to come naturally. Because that hate came naturally for him when somebody metaphorically killed his mother that he loved. And he understood that as love. So if we can take that and apply it to our people, brother, you'll perfect love. You understand? And with that, I pass the class over to Priest and Officer I.S.U.P.K.
I.S.U.P.K security announcements. We have the I.S.U.P.K on 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York.